Hey guys, it's Angel, welcome back to the channel, and today we're taking a look at Aeroplane Heaven's latest creation, the de Havilland Canada DHC-1 Chipmunk. Now, quite a lot of people have a fond memory of this aircraft, and with good reason. It is a classic trainer in a lot of Commonwealth countries, notably UK and Canada, and this was designed to replace the aging Tiger Moth. Now, it's a tandem two-seat single-engine primary trainer, and it came just after the Second World War, sold in huge numbers in the post-war years, both civilian and military markets, and it was the first post-war aviation project made by de Havilland Canada. Its maiden flight was 1946 on the 22nd of May. In fact, it entered service that year as well. Now, it phased out in the 50s and was replaced by other ones, and it was used in a lot of basic training roles. Of course, the RAF actually replaced its elementary training role in 1996 by the Scottish Aviation Bulldog, which we have, of course, in the sim now, which is kind of cool. It's fully aerobatic, and it is, of course, a really fun little aeroplane. Now, I believe they also had Portuguese versions, civilian conversions. There were several notable options, really, for it here. How is it spec'd? Well, 2 seats, of course, and it has a power plant of one de Havilland Gypsy Major 1C engine, which is a 4-cylinder air-cooled inverted inline piston producing 145 horsepower with a 2-blade fixed-pitch propeller. Can do about 120 knots at sea level maximum speed. It cruises about 90. Range is about 225 nautical miles, and it can get up to about 15,000, I should say, feet. Good little plane. It's not really a tourer, it's a trainer, but they've been used for various different things. Now, this one comes with 2 versions. We'll take a look at both today. There's the standard one and there's the second one, which it doesn't really differentiate verbally which is which. You can get regular birdcage canopy ones and bubble canopies in both. From the look of it, we have a military with loads of liveries and a civilian with liveries. Let's take a look at the military first, shall we? Okay, so we're here at the aircraft, and people missed my looking at the landing gear in the last video, so it's always a mark of quality to me. I tell you that. It always seems to be a mark of quality. Now, I'm going to be a little critical on this one because I actually had a lot of time around the Chipmunk. I never got to fly one, but I have had my hands all over one. I was actually involved in the early stages of a project when I worked in FSX. I did several projects where we released freeware aircraft, including Ryan Navion. We worked with Milton Shoup to do a native FSX Grumman Mallard, and we were going to do a Chipmunk. And I actually went to a museum and got permission to get my hands all over it, climb in and out of it. I spent a lot of time taking photographs, measurements, looking at materials, because I was going to be doing the texture work for this project. We never ended up doing it, but I've been all over a Chipmunk, so I feel pretty comfortable saying what looks right and wrong, technically. Now, from the general look of it, it does look right. And one of the things I was most concerned with is previous renditions have felt a little bit big. The Chipmunk, and this cowling, by the way, is finicky to close at times. Actually, kind of really finicky. It's very thin material too. And the aircraft overall is far sturdier than you realise. Obviously, this part you don't want to walk on is fabric towards the rear of the wing there. And we've got metal over the leading edge of the wing. Now, the canopy on this one is the classic birdcage style. So you've got the metal framing. There is some slight bulging to the rear pilot's window so he can look out the side, stick his head to one side and be able to see out, which is really helpful. Now, tail surfaces again, they are fabric, very common for this era of aircraft. Contact point at the rear is a little bit low, but then again it's flight sim. The front ones are a tiny bit low, it's just a smaller wheel. That is a free castering tail wheel, by the way. Now, the sim does allow you to use the rudder, technically, for tail wheel steering, but it's used differential braking and good bursts of power to get this thing rolling. They're quite sticky like that. Now, exterior texture-wise, it does look decent. There's a good level of surface detail recreated in this. I find quite pleasing. I do quite like it. Now, what's that? Random strip of red there. That looks weird. Okay, never mind. But I even like the fact there's wear and tear around the different holes at the priming points there on the cowling. It actually adds to the real look that it's been used and looked after. And those gypsies were never somehow clean. Like, even when you'd just been serviced, they never looked clean. Let's take a look inside, shall we? Now, this could look really confined to you, and compared to most single-seaters in the sim, it feels tiny. Now, I can tell you, in most of them, it really is tiny in real aircraft. And this actually feels like being in the cockpit of a Chipmunk to me. It's tiny. You really are, if you're not, 5'1" and just tiny in general, you feel penned in. You literally strap this thing on to fly it. Very much like the Tiger Moth. And there's a lot crammed into the cockpit here. You've got electronics on the left there. You've got radio on the right. You've got a full stack of radios in the back. And optional navigation gear. Cockpit lighting. Somewhere for goggles. You've got magnetos, the instruments. You've got your compass down below your... behind the flight stick. In this case, it really is just a flight stick. It's not nothing more complicated. Trim down there on the left. Now, of course, we've got the harness. Now, this would be typically flown either with a cushion in there or a parachute, depending on how you're going to fly it. Okay. Fire extinguisher there. It's very much a manual affair in this aircraft. Now, I will say this doesn't feel quite as confined as the real thing. The canopy feels the right distance in, but this doesn't feel as far forward. This felt bigger in the real plane. Like it was much more up in your face. Now, considering your stock kind of flying position is going to roughly be like this, yeah, it's going to feel pretty lacking in space. But either way. So opening the canopy is the twisting that there. And you can slide it all the way back. It's a single canopy for both seats, and that will open all the way. Texturing this is pretty decent, I will say. That looks a little bit generically metal, but it's fine. The rest is basically shades of black. This is a coal pit. It's realistic. Post-war British and Canadian design. It follows those same trends. It is a coal pit of texture. There's not much in here. Now, we're going to change the nighttime lighting for a second and have a quick look at that. Okay, so down here you will see... Where is it? There's my nav lights. I need batteries on for this. There we go. Good old British red battle lighting in there from these, and that is controllable. And you do have white lighting for your instruments if you really need it. Wouldn't recommend. Will glare out for you. You can still see them pretty well with the red lighting. And of course this is scalable with that. And I really like how real that looks. It looks very warm. Really does fit. Those are your fuel levels, by the way. Get used to looking out the window for that. Let's put it back to daytime, shall we? Okay, so let's get this thing started, shall we? Now, you've got your fuel cutoff down here. Now, there is a bug at the moment, I've been told, with the tank selection. You are stuck. It says both. It's really left and right. Left or right, I should say. And I believe Aeroplane Heaven are working on it, but there isn't one yet. Now, that little knob there, secure the aircraft. And you'll notice we now have tie-downs, and we have chocks. Which is, I like those features. Those are important to me. Now, two other little cool features here are, let me turn, that's off. Turn those off. Now, here is our ground power, which gives us a GPU for starting on external power. And where was the cowling switch? I remember seeing that a minute ago. I remember being able to open the darn thing. Oh, engine cover. There we go. That's technically your Morse code indicator. But there we go. The internal structure here of the cowling. Yeah, that does look about right. And I like the attention to detail even on the interior. You've got the markings on the interior of the metal surface. Firewall there, all the lines, the frame that holds everything onto the aircraft. It's a little bit more generic, I'd say, than the exterior texture, but for the interior detail of an engine bay, it is great. GPU, which is, of course, a period one there. Chonking great unit. Anyway, enough of the looking around. Let's get this thing in the air, and let's take a look at what we've got. So where is my secure aircraft? There we go. GPU is down there. We'll leave it on to ground power. Alright, let's... Oh, crap, knocking things off my desk. It's a great start to something when I knock everything off my desk. So our magnetos are on the left wall there. Those are both on. And we are going to engage starter. And we should be good to go. We make sure these are all set properly. Crack the throttle. Hold the brakes. And... Close the canopy. Make things a little bit quieter. Now, it's a Gypsy Major. They're quite a tinny engine. It's been a long time since I've heard a Chipmunk. I'm not sure. That sounds a little deeper than it should. Either way. That's our parking brake down there, by the way, on the left. Right below the knob. We're going to taxi out to the runway. Let me turn my head on real quick. So this is how it feels to be a Chipmunk. It really does feel very confined and lacking in space. So let's make sure my flaps are up. Now, you can, of course, steer with the tail wheel. Unfortunately, it's a sim thing. And it's nice for people who haven't got differential brakes. But you can just power. And use that. Let's get ourselves out here onto the runway. Line up and take off. Now, this is very much one of those aircraft that will... Tail draggers in a sim can be iffy. But we'll see how Aeroplane Heaven's done theirs. And yeah, this is what it feels like to be sitting in one. They really aren't spacious. I can't overemphasize that. A little bit of wiggle. Hey, this is really controllable. 45 knots and fly off the runway. And we are out. Let's climb 70 knots here. You will find it's a very easy aircraft to fly, and there is a lot of good visibility. We'll take a look at one of the bubble canopy ones when we get on the ground, and we'll see what it's like. But this should not be bad at all. Now, it is fully aerobatic, and once we get some speed up, we will do a little bit and see how she behaves. I will say head tracking is rather useful in a plane like this, because it actually lets you look around and glance at the instruments and back up again. But yeah, not a ton of... it feels like you're very contained, but it's a very weird feeling for simmers to end up with just a view out the window and glare shield, but it's rather realistic for this aircraft. It was a primary trainer. You are not doing complicated navigation work in this. It is very much a learn to fly and learn to do it out the window. Right, let's get ourselves up to about 100 knots here. And that was my poor attempt at a roll there. He wants to drop the nose, which is on me. I need to give it more rudder, I think it is next time. I forget. I'm not an aerobatic pilot. All I know is I can make a plane do weird things if I want to. We'll get over the water, we'll go for a loop. Let's see, we'll go for a chandelier, actually. See how she'll behave with that. We'll bring her in and we'll take a look at the other versions as well. So flight-wise, I can't comment, really, because I've never flown a Chipmunk. But it's very stable, and they're meant to be a very forgiving aircraft. It's not a huge amount of power. The sound is one of the biggest things for me. Aeroplane Heaven have actually toned this back, which I like. It's no longer the square waving, terribly noisy. The camera viewpoints as well are good this time. Alright, let's get our speed up to 120 for entry. Speed here. This also says it well for the entry to a loop. Handles it very well. So where's our airport? There it is. So we'll circle around this way. We'll bring it back into land. The Chippie is generally a placid aircraft, and they got called that a lot by the British, at least, Chippies in British aviation circles. We'll idle out our power here. Now in the rear cockpit we do have the option for a few extra navigation instruments. We'll look at that when we hit the ground. Did I just say hit? Is that a bad omen? It might be. We'll have to see how it plays out. Alright, there's the runway. Let us expedite our descent, shall we? That's quite hefty and a bit generic, actually, I will say. The scratching of the windows is very generic. It's just the same repeating circle pattern, which isn't too bad when it's not in direct sunlight, but when it is in direct sunlight, it's extremely obvious that it's repeating, largely. Okay, that's a bit much descent. Too much looking at the window, not enough looking out the window. Okay, set ourselves up here. Our speed is good. Flaps deployed there. Now our stall speed flaps deployed will be 43 knots. It's a loud aircraft, but it's not as loud as Aeroplane Heaven's previous models have been. So we're doing just about okay. We're going to ballpark here for about 50 over the fence. And of course you are going to basically have to look out the way of the bar there in the middle of the windshield. Which is of course the benefit of head tracking. If I'm sitting, you know, perfectly normally, it's right in the way. But a little bit of lean to one side. And we'll bring her right down the centre line. Really well behaved, I will say. Again, I'm not an expert on the Chipmunk. I can't tell you if it is or not accurate to the numbers. But it's a nice flying aircraft. And for tail draggers in the sim, it's one of the better behaved, as I'm off the centre line by a margin here. Let's bring her back over. It's just looking to one side is throwing me off. There we go. We've got more than enough runway in our windshield now. Whoopsie daisy. Perfect. I'll take that. There we go. And we'll be off by the first taxiway exit. Lovely jubbly. That will do. Did I just say that seriously? I did. I'm so sorry. It won't happen again. Okay. Let's get ourselves over to parking 1. So what do I think of it? Well, the window... Is that here the whole time? Oh, bloody hell. Did I knock that switch? I must have knocked that switch. That's hilarious if that appears once I touch the ground, but it was turned on. I didn't see it on approach, so it wasn't there then. Weird. Something must have happened. Okay, let's bring her in. Let's stop her here on the taxiway. Let's turn my head off for a second. We'll cut the fuel so we've got a little bit of quiet to talk. There we go. So let's go to the rear cockpit, shall we? So this is your rear cockpit. It's basically the same as the front, but if we go down here, show nav gear, it gives us this on top of the rear cockpit's seating area, which gives us the ADF and nav for a VOR head. So we have ADF and VOR, which allows us to do rudimentary IFR navigation, which is a cool feature. Let's go take a look at the bubble and the military, the civilian version, shall we? So here's the Royal Canadian Air Force variant with the bubble canopy. It's otherwise entirely the same, apart from this big bubble canopy. Now, the one weird thing is no pilot in the exterior view in the front, which is strange. You'd think the pilots would be in both seats, whether it's your chosen pilot or the one we've got in the back seat here. Weird, isn't it? You'd think that would be something that'd be in the aircraft. I'm not sure why that is, but it is. In fact, no, it's only when it... Oh, okay. So when I'm in the third-person view, flying controlled, it's there. But when I'm in drone mode, it's not. Strange. Let's take a look inside, shall we? So this is the bubble canopy interior. We'll just zoom out a little bit so you can see a little better. So here is your latch for the canopy. Gives a bit more visibility. Largely the same inside, apart from up here we have our electricity, we have the starter, generator, battery, nav lights, landing lights, and an inoperable button. Some doodahs that do nothing. That's our attitude caging there, of course. And we have the starter. So yes, largely otherwise the same. We'll quickly go to the rear cockpit and see if any of this is different. It is not. So that's our generator power failure system there. So emergency lighting. Same exact instruments on the top there. No difference. That's our flaps, of course, just in case you were curious. Let's take a look at the civilian one, shall we? Okay, so here's our civilian one. Now, from the exterior, no rear pilot, which is a difference. Otherwise, it's exactly the same as the OG birdcage Chipmunk. No difference whatsoever. In the cockpit, no difference whatsoever. Which is weird. What's this? Starter safety plate. Oh, there's a pull starter there, yes. I don't see a ton of difference, to be honest. Everything looks very much similar. Yep. I get the general impression it's basically the same thing. Rear cockpit. Again, kind of the same thing. Now, if I were to want to actually go up here... Oh, we'll do that. Sorry, let's put ourselves back in the right position. Nah, I'm an idiot. Let's reset that. If I look to the side... and go back here... Where are you? Oh, there you are. Adjust my position a little bit. We'll pull this back in. And here is the rear seat flying position, which arguably gives you exactly the same experience. You've just got more radios there, which I'm assuming is where you'd fly it from in the solo position rather than the forward seat. Typically a student position in these kind of trainers. So, yeah, useful obviously in single pilot operations. You've got a lot more visibility forward because you've got these windows as well. Generally much more of a round view than you do from sitting right up in the front. But overall, very much the same. I don't know if it's that way you would sit in it, but for example, in a lot of biplanes that have two seats, like the Tiger Moth, you do sit in the rear. Same with the Cubs. So, would be likely, especially having this one more radios in the rear. Typically, this would indicate where you'd be as a single pilot. So, who knows? Oh yeah, this is also a thing. Now, a lot of them don't necessarily have the full floor plates there, but in this one, there is a recess for your foot to sit into, and you just touch those bars there. Yeah. Yes, that is your wonderful ability to use the rudder. It's like bicycle handlebars. Well, what do we think of the Chipmunk? £18 from Justflight's website. For some reason, it is €33 on Simmarket. I hate to say it, but don't buy it from Simmarket because that is an actual large markup. Because €33 is not £18, last I checked. I will confirm this for you now, very quickly. At time of recording, on the xe.com exchange, I will tell you right now. No, I don't want your cookies. I like cookies, but not those cookies. So €2 from pounds sterling. We will convert £18 sterling into euros. €20. So that's a £10 markup for Simmarket. Buy it from Justflight. And this isn't me being preferable to either or, but for some reason it is significantly more expensive, a third more from that retailer, so I will be linking to both, to be fair. I like both Simmarket and Justflight as websites, but in this case I bought mine from Justflight, and it seems I was correct. So, where do I put this on a score? Yeah, it's not got modern instrumentation or navigation instruments, but who cares? It's a Chipmunk. Is it a great tourer? No, it's not got a huge range. Is it a great fun little plane to fly? Is it a great historical plane to fly? Yes. Does it have any systems depth? Well, if you let the temperatures get over 100 Celsius in the engine, it will fail. That's about as complicated as a Chipmunk gets. Unfortunately, in this case, you can't have brake failures. There's no hydraulics per se. and there's really no electrical failures. So it's not fully systems depth, but there is some nod to systems depth in terms of the engine will fail if it gets too hot. So there you go. It's not really in depth, but it's really prettily made. It flies nicely, and its sound is not terrible. So if this is a sign of Aeroplane Heaven fixing some of their past mistakes with things like the 140 and a couple of their other aircraft that had extremely loud sounds, the Electra as well had some weird issues. Considering we have a DC-3 coming from them soon, I'm less worried. Take it from me that way. This is a nice job. They did a good one. So I would recommend it. Thanks for watching, guys. Please, if you're not subscribed, do. It helps me out hugely, and give that video a like, because YouTube makes us shill for our bread. So if we don't shill, we don't get it. Please like and subscribe. Put the notifications on if you want to see more reviews and flight videos and fun. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye!